cutting out. Yeah. Let me put this thing on mute. Yeah. Okay, so we're on silent. We have everything we need. Let's wait for the gang to tune in. That flop earlier, I apologize for it again. Yeah, like I don't know what was going on with that connection. I went to the horse academy. I was meant to go live from up there, but I decided to come back home and eat some lovely food. So that's why I'm not doing it up there. I'll be back up there tomorrow morning, early and bright, to ride some horses. But yeah, the way that it worked out, I'm back at yard today. So earlier, I tried to go into a bit of background about why the world today is not the same. Let me put this over here. It's not the same as what it used to be in terms of the size, the size of things. It seems like things used to be made a lot bigger, and not only bigger, but a lot more precise, a lot more durable and stuff. So I'm going to go back into them notes briefly. Hopefully by that time, um, the rest of the gang have joined in. What did I just do with my book with all my notes in it? Oh, here it is. Recommended read. This is my recommended read, which is The Beginning by Dr. Malachi York. And it goes into so much detail about the beginning. It's not like the Bible where it only gives you like 5% of what the beginning really was and leads you around chasing your tail. This book here busts it down to the atom. In the beginning, the earth was void and it was desolate and empty. It breaks down the beginning from that aspect and then takes it further back into Sumerian tablets and Egyptian tablets to give you a bit of the real, true story. And it's giving you times, like timelines and dates that you can attach to this beginning, because in religion all of that's kind of vague. So that's my recommended read for today. Questions to Dr. Malachi Z. York L about the beginning. It's a question and answer format and it's vast and it answers so much. I love this book. That's my recommended read of the day. Yeah. So this will be seen as a part 2 of what we did already with the origin of the Muzungu, the true origin of the Muzungu, the role of the Moors, and Tartaria. And like I said earlier, we wasn't able to give the full breakdown of Tartaria because we had to spend the bulk of the time on the origin of the Muzungu and also the role of the Moors. It was a real interactive live. I did miss a few things that I put in the thread because I missed saying them in the live. So I put a few points on the thread. But when it comes to giants and the whole theme of giants, it's more than just giant human beings. Yeah, there was a whole this whole planet. Everything was made bigger. So I'm gonna jump back into it. So yeah, earlier when I first tried to come on and the thing was playing up, I explained how universes are the biggest beings in creation. We've explained this on other lives also. When we're speaking about worlds within worlds and the theory of everything, we speak about how, just like how you have a gestation period in your mother's womb, this none or nothingness, the womb of the universe, the womb of nothingness births universes. Yeah, and universes take 9 years to be born from the none or from the nothingness. Yeah, so that 9 years can be seen as the gestation period of universes, which are the biggest beings in creation. That ties in. This ties into when we've spoke before about cycles within cycles and how you have smaller cycles within larger cycles. The largest cycle I'm aware of is 225 million years, one cycle, and I think that's to do with our our sun traveling around there's a black hole in the center of our universe, and our small solar system, our universe is the Milky Way. In the center of it there's a black hole. For us to travel around the entire black hole takes something like 25,000, takes 25,920 years, which is called a great year or an arm. But there's a larger cycle, yeah, than that 25,920 years. The largest one that I am aware of being 2,225, 225 million years, one cycle. Okay, so I say that to say, when universes are being born, you can see that as the summer of existence for that universe. Just like how you have soil, right? And you might plant some seeds. And if you plant the seeds in the wrong season, even though it's got the right soil and all the right ingredients, it won't grow, even if one thing's off. It has to have the perfect conditions for that seed or that life to grow. So, greetings. So, in the universe, it's the same. When universes are born, in that part, in the region where they're born, the summer of existence has come to that part of the cosmos. So when the summer of existence come to this part of the cosmos, remember, this nothingness is everything but nothing. It already has all the ingredients in there, in that vacuum, for physical creation. It's just waiting on the summer of existence to come around. You can see that as consciousness. When the right consciousness hits and say, okay, it's time for life, then it turns into the summer of existence. So things begin to aggregate, mean it begins to pull from the ether. So things start getting pulled out of the ether and aggregate into what we're calling planets or satellites or heavenly bodies. Things begin to aggregate, yeah? So that's called the summer of existence. While that's going on in one place of the cosmos, in another place of the cosmos, you get the winter of existence. And that's basically when a universe goes into death. Just like when you're born as a baby, and then you grow into a large form, you hit a peak, and then you start regressing backward. You go back to basically baby stage. Dribbling, can't hold your dribble, can't hold your poo, maybe have to wear a nappy. That's like a second childhood. So you've regressed because you've gone past your peak, maybe at 40, 45, yeah, and then you start going back down. So when you go back down, that's known as, in human terms, for us it's old age. But in the terms I'm giving you in solar biology, we call that the winter of existence. So death is now going to come to this region of the cosmos. So you have life, the summer of existence, and death, the winter of existence, going on at the same time, but not in the same place. If there's life over here, death's going on over here. When death comes over here, the winter of existence, then the summer of existence will return to what's dead over here. So you have birth and rebirth. There's no great mystery to it. It's just like planting a seed in the soil, yeah, and the seed grows into a plant, yeah. That is basic, yeah. So in creation, you have cycles within cycles, and universes are the biggest beings. They're a being like me and you. They're the biggest beings in creation. It takes 9 years for a universe to be generated, which can be seen as the universe's gestation point. Okay, and like I said, in the cosmos, you have the summer of existence and you have the winter of existence, and it's cyclic. So where life is going on somewhere else death and destruction is going on. You understand? When this death and destruction's done, finish, the summer of existence will return to this region, and now life will start from. Is that my tablet? I can plug that in here, and you see what I'm saying? So it alternates, right? Okay. I say all that to say, and I'm giving you this foundation so we can talk about giants better. I say all of that to say that in the summer of existence in a universe, when the universe first starts, that's like young age. The universe is young, put it that way, yeah? And so when it goes into the winter of existence, that's the universe going into old age. Our solar system is already gone into the winter of existence since 17 million years ago. This is how long it runs for. 17 million years ago, our universe went into the winter of existence. We call it evolution. Mzungu tell us this is the start of life, like it's the start, and then it's a linear progression up to we progress better and better and better. But that's not true, because when you look at history, why are all the older buildings more better made, more well made, more precisely can't even work today? If we progressed from a nothingness into what we are today, then how come at the start of our story everything's better and bigger, much bigger? Buildings are much bigger, the materials harder to work, granite, stone and all kind of stuff. The techniques are way more complicated. Do you understand? This is proving that the theory that they give us in school about this linear progression, you understand, is bogus, yeah? Because it doesn't fit with what we're seeing in observable reality, okay? So universes grow and they die, and universes go into old age. When universes go into old age, what we call evolution, what happens is the sun changes. The sun stops being a magnetic sun and letting off 9 Eva prominences. 9 Eva prominences are the pinnacle of the forces of life in Mother Nature. So it's all to do with building, creating, spirituality, abundance, happiness. We are the people that represent 9 Eva. So like 9 Eva, we represent the forces of the pinnacle of life in Mother Nature. Okay? And during the summer of existence, when we were manifested in the solar cycle, during the summer of existence, yeah, is different than during the winter of existence, because you have 9 Eva prominences coming out in the summer of existence, and then when it switches over existence, and then when it switches over, the sun switches to an electric sun, because it's electric and magnetic, electromagnetic. So it alternates between both. When it's doing the magnetics, it's dealing with 9 Eva prominences. When it switches to an electric sun like it has now, it's dealing with 6 Eva prominences. So that switch up happened 17,250,000 years ago. And what you'll find is once the switch over happened, the sun now starts letting off what's called the moon mist, yeah? In biblical terms, they stole the moon mist title, which is Leviathan, and attach it to some biblical concept. But back in the days with the ancestors, the Cushites in the Nile Valley, Leviathan for us was the moon mist, or the 6 Eva eminences that is coming out of the sun. These 6 Eva eminences work like nuclear fallout. If you see a mushroom cloud go off, in a certain radius around that nuclear bomb or that mushroom cloud, I need to plug this in a certain radius around that mushroom cloud, the air is going to be affected. The nuclear fallout pollutes the air, it pollutes the water, it pollutes the soil. It's the same way 6 Eva eminences work when it comes out of the sun. Everything is polluted, everything is changed. So before they switch over to the winter of existence, it was a tropical climate on Earth. All the lands were connected as one, Pangaea. The whole of the planet had a tropical climate, which was conducive to life. So it wasn't too hot. It's like perfect climate. It wasn't too cold. And that's why when you study certain things like Antarctica, when they show you, hold on, they found lion bones and all kind of different animals that live in sunny climates in Antarctica under the ice when they dig up the ice, which is to show you that, hold on, so Antarctica wasn't always under snow. It didn't always have that climate. Okay. I needed to give you that before we get into the giants. I still got a bit more. So get comfortable, guys. I'm going to switch this up so you can get a better understanding of this whole gigantism thing. Yeah. So yeah, the moon mist is 6 Eva eminences or prominences. 9 Eva is life and 6 Eva is death. So just like how you are the forces of the pinnacle, you are the pinnacle of the forces of life in Mother Nature, you the black man, because you're 9 Eva consciousness. In the same way, the Mzungu man is the opposite. He's the pinnacle of the forces of death in Mother Nature. So he's the harbinger of death. Okay. So you got 369. So and that's to go with what Nikola Tesla said about frequencies. The first frequencies make 9 Eva beings. The second frequencies make 6 Eva beings. And the third frequency make 3 Eva beings. 9 Eva beings are black people. 6 Eva beings are Asian people, not white people. White people are ghost Eva beings, which is 3 Eva, which is a result of they come out of the 6 Eva. When 9 Eva breaks down, it becomes 6 Eva. When 6 Eva breaks down, it becomes 9 Eva again. But before it becomes 9 Eva again, it releases what's called ghost Eva or 3 Eva. Okay, so when you're dealing with the harbinger of, when you're dealing with the pinnacle of the forces of death in Mother Nature, and we're talking about the Mzungu, this is why he doesn't need a reason to kill. This is why his bloodlust is so high. Okay, and this is why when he talks about God, when you hear him worshiping God, he's talking about the ghost Eva God. So when you're talking about Jesus, if you change that J to a G, you're really talking about gases or Evas, or you understand what I'm saying? The universe in death, yeah, goes through rigor mortis. Just like any corpse, if you've seen a dead body here, after a certain amount of time, having no life in that vessel, that body will go through the process what science calls rigor mortis. When it decomposes, it starts decomposing and breaking down, so it's returned to the earth. All of its parts get broken down to its basic elements, and them elements are given back to the soil. So it goes through rigor mortis. When something goes through rigor mortis, notice how the color turns pale. Like if me and you, if you seen a dead now, they will have a pale film over the skin, like a thin film, pale film that sets in when the death sets in, when rigor mortis sets in, when the rotting starts to take place and the decomposing, yeah, and it also expands and bloats. That's something that's dead. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you look at the Muzungu as a creature, yeah, the fact that he is pale is showing you that he's going through a process of death. That's a corpse, and the skin is dead. That's why it can't take the sunlight, and that's why the word is Caucasian. Cork is the same as Caucasus or Caucasus Mountains, Caucasus Mountains. That's a Caucasus Asian or a deteriorating Asiatic. And the paleness comes from the fact that the genes are dead. The skin is dead. They're at the end of the genetics of humanity. They're not at the beginning, at the top. At the beginning, at the top is the dominant gene. Yeah, don't worry, I'll switch to giant soon. At the bottom of the scale, at the end, is what you call the albino gene, the recessive gene. That's just before the gene's dying out. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you see the pale skin, that's to show you that it's going through a process of death. It's going through, remember what I said about when evolution sets in and the winter of existence comes. Yeah. So in our realm now, that changed, that moon mist changed everything. So you're having different beings being born now, and they're being born a lot bigger at first. They were being born gigantic. Yeah. And it's not just beings like humans. As you can see, I posted on my Instagram the picture of them steeds, whether they're donkeys or mules. Them shits looked about 20 feet high. Those were old world photos that show you proof that even animals were bigger. There's even mosquitoes right now in Greenland that are so big that they attack little calves and stuff. They take down calves like cow calves, and this is how big these mosquitoes are and stuff. There's in Antarctica, there's still certain species of plants, certain species of fruits that are twice, 3 times as big as the plants that we see on the surface here in everyday life, and animals too. Do you understand? There's even allegedly T-Rexes and different creatures that died out on the surface because the evolutionary chain broke. But down in the hollow earth in Antarctica, that evolution chain never broke. It went down a completely different route. You still got raptors down there. You still got pterodactyls down there. You still got woolly mammoths down there that are still on that evolutionary cycle. So they still the size they were made on that evolutionary cycle. Okay, we're going to go deeper. When you look at soil, fertile soil, rich soil with life in it, the color of that soil is brown or dark, deep, rich, brown, chocolatey, mahogany, brown, coppery, brown. That's the color of life. That means that soil's alive. It's a deep, dark brown. Anytime you see the soil go dead, you will see it get a white film on it. The soil will look whitish. That means that soil's not fertile. It's dead. There's no life in that soil. That's why it's got that white film over it. Check all this stuff out. Don't just listen to what I'm saying, okay? So what I'm saying about rigor mortis and rotting, when you look at humanity today and you see this influx of Muzungu and Tamahu, even though we know they were engineered genetically and stuff, there has to be the conditions for that to take place, for that to go on. But what I'm giving you here is the reason why after a while, instead of being born with the melanated skin, things are being made and being born without melanin, because now we're in the winter of existence in this neck of the woods. They tell us on our own discovery channels and them kind of stuff that our sun has got 1 billion years left. That's it. That's nothing. That means our sun's an old man with a walking stick. That's why it's orange, because when the sun's new and it's got billions of years in its life, it's blue first, and the older it gets, that blue turns to orange, turns to yellow, and by the time it's about to die, it's a bright orange color. That means it's at the end of its life. Okay. So there was a 6 Eva invasion on Earth, one from the solar eminences and stuff, and the beings that this 6 Eva Leviathan produced Archons, Greys, Alpha Draconians, Pleiadians, Andromedans. They invaded, I shouldn't say invaded because they was already here, but they broke galactic law to implement what's going on Earth right now. Yeah. And the main group of beings that were used to hybridize people on Earth was the Alibarans, who are a tall race of, they're really Hindus. They're not Muzungu people, but they're pale. So they look like any regular Muzungu. It's just that they look a bit, like Nikola Tesla, Elvis Presley, black hair. They don't have facial hair. The ones that went to Venus, they carry no facial hair. So they look like any Muzungu man would look, but they're not actually Muzungu. These are extraterrestrial Aldebarans, and they're closer to Hindus. And they came down in Sumeria, and they came down in India, and they mixed with people in them areas, and also moved into Africa and mixed with certain tribes in Africa, like your Dogon tribe and stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying? When we get to the Genesis 6, chapter 6, verse 1 to 7 story in the Bible, we spoke about this before, even though it's got two sides, a heads and tails to it. Yeah, this is speaking about these same soldiers of Satan or sons of Satan, these Aldebarans and these Pleiadians, or we could call them tall whites, Nordics. They came down 11,000 years ago, some say 12,000 years ago, and they started abducting Nile Valley women and raping them out, which produced a hybrid. And the hybrid that was produced wasn't a normal sized human, because at that time on the planet, the hominids were really small. I'm talking about us, black people. We manifested as dwarves. We never manifested as giants. We manifested as the Twa man and the Twa woman. We was like 4 foot tall. I'm not talking about midgets where their torso's long or their arms are short or their head looks long. Nah, I'm talking about normal portion like me and you human today, but they only grow to 4 foot. These were metaphysical, gentle beings that was a part of Mother Nature's ecosystem. Do you understand? And at the time when this planet was invaded, they were the highest developed hominid on the planet, and those were the ones who got messed with by these archons. So these tall whites, these Alibarans, some of them grow to 7 foot, some 9 foot, some as tall as 12 foot. These Alibarans. So these are the giants. When it's saying in those days there were giants on the earth, they came down and they raped out the little people. So what was left after that, you got hybrid beings ranging anywhere from 7 foot to 9, 10, 12 foot. Do you understand? The giants that came down, some of them are 16 foot, 28 foot, real like that. They started messing around. So when they went with these little dwarf beings, and don't ask me how, like, because if these guys are like 16 foot and 22 foot or whatever, and these pygmy beings are only 4 foot, I don't necessarily feel at the start it was sex. I think it was genetic experimentation and stuff like that until it was compatible enough to merge these bloodlines. But anyway, they got the women from the Nile Valley, black women, because all beings on earth that want to stay here in a human form, they have to come through the womb. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I say this in essence, these mixed race beings were the hybrids or the men of renown or the Nephilim or the Gibberim, yeah, and they became the classical heroes. And some of them were agreeable, but the majority of them abused their position and abused their powers as a half divine. They were nasty beings. They were unclean, disgraceful beings. Okay, they bred themselves into the DNA and the genetic timeline of humanity. This happened 11,000 years ago, 12,000 years. This is where the giants come into the human story. Yeah. When these beings, just like we told you in the last life, some of us started messing around and trying to create slaves for ourselves, servants and stuff. So we start a lot our own black, woolly-haired, risky and Anunnakis started working with reptilians and Pleiadians and whatever to try and breed this worker. Do you see what I'm saying? From all these gene splicing experiments, they produced Neanderthals who came from the mixture with the Alibarans mixing with a certain hominid on Earth. I can't remember which hominid it is, but they started mixing them with certain hominids. The tall whites started mixing themselves with certain hominids. So today we get people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates who are Telologians. Telologians are a mixture between them Aldebarans that came from out the cosmos mixing with certain cave hominids here before the Neanderthal that turned into the Neanderthal. Then you have like Cro-Magnon man. Then you have like Denisovan man. Then you have like Java man. There was loads of different hominids. It wasn't just Homo sapien, and none of these were human. They was all subhuman until we get to Homo sapien. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So these mixins that these aliens, these tall 12-foot aliens, 16-foot aliens, when they came down here and raped out the original indigenous carbonated women, they made a hybrid. Not only were they tall, but these hybrids were mixed race. So there wasn't full Mzungu and there wasn't full us. So it became a problem because it started messing with the gene pool of the earth. And also size is to do with your evolutionary timeline. If you come from a different evolutionary timeline than a next creature, it's more likely there's going to be a size difference. This happened on Earth here when the reptilians started breeding dinosaurs. It's the reptilians who made all these the Earth was full of dinosaurs that the Anunnaki had to wipe out. Because when the Anunnaki came here and found the reptilians here that's doing their own thing, the reptilians had it running so that the dinosaurs had outgrown the humans. Then it's a different evolutionary timeline for them both. So the humans were being eaten off. The dinosaurs just nyam humans. I'm talking about the carnivorous T-Rexes, Allosaurus, raptors, them pterodactyl, them nyamming humans because there's an imbalance, yeah? So the Anunnaki took the decision to wipe the earth and start it again with everything on the same evolutionary timeline, our evolutionary timeline, black people. So everything could be our size. It's based on us. Do you understand? So these mixins, like I said, produced Neanderthals and various different subhumans. Yeah, they were mixing, they were gene splicing, they were doing it by way of laying up with certain species, and they were also doing it in the lab with the lab babies and shit, man. Genetic experimentation, genetic engineering and stuff. Okay. Yeah, so 6 Eva, when 9 Eva breaks down, it becomes 6 Eva. So 9 Eva is a combination of all existing gases in one, yeah, one force. So it's the most potent force in the whole universe. Yeah, when it breaks down, it loses some of its essence. So certain elements, when we're talking about the 99 elements on the some of them go missing. So 9 Eva is creative, it's positive, it's a benevolent force. It goes around creating, yeah, the most potent power in the universe. Through all this creating, giving itself into these creations, it weakens, it loses some of its force. When it loses its force, it breaks down into 6 Eva. When it reaches to a certain point, 6 Eva, the nature reverses now. So where 9 Eva was creating and building universes, dimensions, planets, worlds, realms, now it's changed into 6 Eva. Now it starts destroying. So it starts smashing up worlds, planets, people, beings, animals, things going extinct. So it's a balance. You have life and death, and you always have rebirth. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when 9 Eva loses itself and turns into 6 Eva, the same thing over time happens with 6 Eva. After it's gone about destroying and losing itself in all these destructions and supernovas and whatever, yeah, it breaks down and it loses some of its force. When it loses its force, it changes back into 9 Eva and the cycle starts again. But before that happens, it releases what's called Ghost Eva or what's called 3 Eva. So you got 9, 6 and 3, or 3, 6, 9, as Nikola Tesla said it, which is not just about frequencies. Okay. Yeah, so as I said, these Aldebarans or these Nephilim, these fallen angels that came from the Aldebaran star when their star died out and the reptilians chased their ass from over in the Aldebaran all the way to planet Venus. Then they started hopping over here and messing with shit down here. Yeah. Um, when you, to prove to you that they took these women from the Nile Valley, yeah. Remember, we're in Genesis 6, verses 1 to 7. Yeah, and in those days there were giants on earth, or Nephilim on the earth, and the sons of God came down unto the daughters of men and went into them, and they produced men of renown. All of that shit, yeah, that's Genesis 6. To prove that we're talking about Nile Valley women and people from Nile Valley, yeah, and not Italy or Arabia, Mecca or Rome. We're talking about the Nile Valley. All you have to do is go back from Genesis 6 to Genesis 2. Yeah, go to Genesis 2 and read chapter 11 through to chapter 15, and it would tell you where we're speaking about. It would tell you, yo, speaking about Egypt, yeah, the Nile River, Pishon and the Gihon, and the garden ran through this land, Havilah and Cush, or what they call in Ethiopia. So they took the women from there. They took the man and put them in the garden. This is the Bible's own language. God took the man. That means they abducted them. They took them. They probably didn't want to come to know Samaria, but they took them from out of Egypt, the Nile Valley, Ethiopia, and God put the man and in the garden, which is in Sumeria, the Eden. So they were taken from the Nile Valley, because the first nation mentioned in the Bible is Egypt and Ethiopia, which is really one. They're telling you about Cush. In that time, Cush included Ethiopia. So certain books, they talk about Egypt. Certain books use the word Cush. Certain books use Abyssinia. Certain books use Ethiopia. It's really talking about the same Nile Valley region when it was first established, old man Cush. So before dynastic Egypt and the pharaohs, way before then, yeah? And Twa people lived along the Nile Valley all the way into the Nile Delta. And they didn't just speak hieroglyph, they spoke cuneiform, because cuneiform has been found there. Yeah, so cuneiform is not just Sumerian language. Cuneiform is a Mande language, one of the African Mande languages that Africans took into Mesopotamia. And for more references on what I just said about cuneiform, you can cite the work of Dr. Clyde, spelled with a Y, C-L-Y-D, Clyde A. Winters. You can check out his fantastic work that shows you, do you understand what I'm saying? That there was cuneiform in Africa, and it's one of the Mande languages, and he can show you, prove it to you with receipts. Same like Sanskrit, it's an African language, ain't no Hindu language. That's our language we took into the Indus Valley. All them Mahabharatas and stuff, it's not the people. That was the Hindu Kush. So these aliens came down and raped indigenous carbonated women and produced hybrids that were more fair-skinned, that were mixed race. This is what started the racism on our planet Earth, because these invaders, when they were raping out our women, the babies that they were producing were coming out with lighter complexions. So because they were classed as classical heroes, men of renown, Hercules, Gilgamesh, all these people, it started to be a symbol. Like, hold on, you're light skinned, you must be from these Nephilims and shit. And remember, we're calling them Nephilims, but other people who don't know no better, who are conned, they think this is the gods. So they worship these beings, these demons, as their gods. These gods started up certain different religions and shit, certain different schools of thought. But these are the hybrid people, the taller people, yeah? Some of them were agreeable, but most of them were disagreeable. Now let's move on, because I had to get through all of that shit before we really get into the grit of this, yeah? So people like Flavius Josephus, who's the real author of the New Testament, yeah, is famous for speaking about giants. One was on display in his time that he spoke about. You can Google it and Google what he said about the giant that was on display in his time, yeah. You have other people closer up in our times, like Captain John Smith. Like, research these names. Captain John Smith, what he said about giants, yeah. And remember this, bear this in mind as well. If the flood was real, then so were giants, yeah. Francis Drake, another infamous figure attached to slavery, he spoke about giants. The Spanish conquistadors, yeah, spoke about giants, yeah. Native giants that they seen off the Gulf Coast, yeah. Slavers like Alonso Alvarez, Alonso Alvarez, all these guys spoke about giants in their time. It was hot topic in their time. It's not something new. These stories have been spoken about since the dawn of time. Yeah. In our book Treasures in the Sand, we mentioned to you that humanity went through 4 genetic shifts. These aliens put us through 4 genetic shifts. Yeah. And when I say aliens, I mean the cataclysms that they brought to, and the change of climate and everything took humanity through 4 genetic shifts. When you go back to the story of the Ogdode, that's what they call them in history, but in our language it's Keminu, which means the sacred 8. But in Greek they say the sacred 8 as Ogdode, yeah, but really it's Keminu, or another name for them is Rashunat, yeah. And we're going back 24 billion years with the crash of Nibiru, when there was already greys on this earth. There was greys next door on the next door planet. Next door to us wasn't Mars. Next door to us at that time was a planet called Maldek, which was a reptilian planet, and that shit got smashed up. So now it's referred to as a lost planet Maldek. But the Greys and some of the reptilians that lived on that planet, they already developed technology to move between planets. So some of them was on Earth when their planet got smashed up. So when all that stuff happened with Nibiru, and Nibiru crashed into, smashed up the Earth and stuff, if you know what panspermia means in science, then this is a perfect example of panspermia happening in our history. Panspermia is a scientific theory where they say life here was seeded from life outside. If I say assisted panspermia, that means then there was some kind of intelligent aliens who did it deliberately. It wasn't just an accident like some meteor fell out the sky and it had germs on it and started up the shit. That's panspermia. But assisted panspermia is like me and you going to Mars and putting algae, fungi, and bacteria on Mars. So now we're starting life on Mars. That's assisted. We're assisting the process of panspermia. But panspermia on itself says that life came from outside the cosmos and was seeded here on Earth. You understand what I'm saying? So when Nibiru happened 24 billion years ago with the crash, yeah, certain germs, algae, fungi, and bacteria came off of Nibiru and came onto Earth. And they came, and once them germs and bacteria reach the waters and it reacts with the sunlight and the hydrogen and stuff, you get chemical elementary reactions creating, remember these are alien germs that's not been on Earth. So now it's creating new germs and new chemicals. So now you have what's called the first animals. In Latin, in science, in school, they tell us the first animals or creatures was called protozoa. Proto means first, and zoa is like zoo. So if I say protozoa, I'm talking about the first time animals. They only had one cell. There's these simple creatures, one cell creatures that came up out the water. After a process of maybe millions of years, these protozoa get more complicated. So now they the next group or the next genetic shift becomes known as Metazoans, which is a bit more complicated than just the first single-celled animals. Some of these animals got 2, 3 different cells now, and then it keeps going up until you get now these Metazoans producing like fish, reptiles, different kind of creatures. The most advanced creature that came out of the water, because remember what I said, there was also greys here. So you got grey DNA here, reptilian DNA here, you got the Anunnaki DNA and the germs that has come off Nibiru with all the germs what's already on Earth. So this chemical mixture now produced a creature that science refers to as genus Homo. And they tell you that it's the first true hominid, where Homo erectus came after genus Homo. When it crawled out of the water, it was still on all fours. Yeah, that's why we have a navel, because while we was in the water, we used to breathe through this navel, just like when you was in your mother's womb, you breathed in that sac through your navel. You surrounded by water, right? Okay, so when we came out of the water, we were still on all fours. When the sun pulled us up now, because the sun pulled us up like a plant, now we become bipedal. We become upright or erect. That's the next genetic shift, yeah? And all these genetic shifts were assisted by Anunnakis. So the next genetic shift from genus Homo, we go into what's called Homo erectus, where we now bipedal, meaning we walk only on 2 feet now. Do you understand what I'm saying? And as I said, these beings that came out of the water, because they come from greys or the Rashunat, the Ogdoad, the sacred ape, yeah, they were small. They were only like 4 foot. They only grew up to 4 foot. Greys are small beings. We only grew up to 4 foot. We come from the greys. People don't like overlook this shit here. Do you understand what I'm saying? But they are the 8 ancestors, 4 pairs of them, male and female each. Nun and Nunet, Kek and Keket, Het and Hehet, Amun and Amunet. And if you see in the Egyptian teachings, they always depict them with frog faces and reptilian faces to show you that, yo, these weren't just normal humans like me and you. These were water beings. These were reptilian beings. Do you understand? But agreeable ones. I'm not talking about greys in the form of greys that come out and abduct people and snatch people up. Remember what I said in other lives? The greys were agreeable first. They used to work for the Anunnaki. They made contracts to mix their seed with the Anunnaki so they wouldn't die off. But factions of them chose to go and mix with reptilians. Do you understand? Some of them did mix with the Anunnaki, which produced Dunakil. Yakub and them kind of people are Dunakil. That means they come from greys. That's why their head's massive. That's why they got the bulb head. See it now. The greys have the bulb head, right? And you see them black people that have the bulb head. They are mixed with grey, half Anunnaki. And these are the same people who came up in Northeast Africa and mixed in with Somalis and Djiboutis and that's why the Somalis and stuff have that bulb-looking head or the Dunakil head, grazing the ancestry. See what I'm saying? Hold on. Where did I go? Yeah, Flavius Josephus. Yeah. So all that's what you can call it panspermia, and that goes back 24 billion years as to when the Nibiru crashed into Tiamat, because this Earth was like 3 times bigger, and back then it was called Tiamat or Tiwawat or Tatahu, which means water planet as Tiamat or Tiwawat, yeah, maiden of life, and as Tatahu it just means Earth, like Earth. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, and when I say we were little dwarf beings, remember what I said as well. We weren't disproportionate like midgets or dwarfs. I just used the word dwarf because it's easier for you to understand. But I don't mean like they're disproportionate. They were just small people. They're really small. Pygmies, we would call them today. Yeah, but that's an insulting word. The real word is tides or Pathites. Yeah. But you can say it as Twa, just TWA, the Twa man and the Twa woman. You will hear Astral Crazy and certain different historians speaking about the fact of these Twa, because this was the root race of all races, even Kushites. We Kushites came out of the Twa man, yeah? They were the first Kushites, or the old race Kushites, small people. We only became taller after we took on that blood from the mixings that happened with all of these unsanctioned beings that came down and just flooded out the genetic pool. We started becoming 6 and 7 foot tall instead of 4 foot tall, like Watusi people. Yeah. Okay, let's go on. Yeah, and as I've already told you, we dwelled in the Nile Valley. The taller people, when they took the Twa women and raped them out and produced these hybrids stayed in a place that we call today Iraq or Sumeria. That's where all the hybrids was. That was mixing out the black women and going back to Mesopotamia and setting up Babylon and setting up Sumeria. You understand? This is the result of the rapings. So a lot of the Hindus also that came down in this region, Sumeria and India, Hindus from Sirius, they started getting in on this shit too. So they was mixing out a lot of the black people too. And so you have a next group that is not Kushites. It's Kufites without the S. There's no S in there. It's Cuthites. Kufites. Yeah, those are Hindus who mixed in with Kushites. So when you hear about goddesses like Arishkigel, she was a Kufite. She was half Hindu. Do you see what I'm saying? And a lot of the time, we overlook all of this stuff. We're just stuck on like historical stuff, and we can't really tie the shit together because we don't know this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like this has been erased. So yeah, the Watusis also started. They're the half Hindu, half Twa man. So instead of being 4 foot tall, they coming out 6 and 7 foot tall now. So they can be considered giants too. If you're asking a Twa man who's only 4 foot, everyone's a fucking giant. Yeah, even the Watusis at 7 foot, even they're giants. Because I'm only 4 foot tall. Do you see what I'm saying? But then Watusis started abducting the Twa women and mixing them out too. Like, and the Watusis, the mixture that came from these Alibarans and these Hindus mixing with the black people produced people with dark skin, even though it might be a bit lighter than ours. It's still dark complexion, but with straight hair. They didn't get the crown. Yeah, they get straight hair or curly hair. Yeah, and the more they start breeding out the black gene, you see them end up with just the straight hair. Yeah. And you see that around the coast of Africa, like Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, and certain black Arab countries where you see a lot of the black people there have straight hair. Yeah. Okay. So even in Native American tradition, yeah, in the Age of Exploration, they use the word Age of Exploration to describe when Europeans set sail and started colonizing everyone. They use the most nicest words. They won't say, okay, when racism started, the age of racism, or the age of killing. They actually call it, oh, the age of exploration. Like the biggest thing going on in that time was exploration. No, it wasn't. It was killing and murder and rape and slavery. And you understand what I'm saying? But they call it the age of exploration anyway. So let's just indulge them, yeah? During this age of exploration, there were many reports from these slavers of them seeing giants, what can only be called giants. They were putting it in their book. Yo, we sailed across Mexico and on the coast, we seen a 10-foot man or a 12-foot man just dancing and singing. There's loads. If you look through the logs, Columbus, who is it? Del Piero, Hernando Cortez and his conquistadors, Amerigo Vespucci, all of these slave and Muzungu, they all wrote it down. Like, yo, we're seeing like giants. Yeah, and Native American Nahuatl tribes. So we're talking Mayans, Toltecs, Aztecs. Yeah, they all have traditions. Hopi Indians. Yeah, they all have traditions of giants that was in the land before them. Yeah, they speak about different types of giants. They speak about giants that came from the east that with dark skin, Olmecs, and they speak about red-haired giants that were cannibals that were trying to yam them off and how they had to fight these red-haired giants and kill them out. They even produced bones like a thigh bone to show these Muzungu, look, this is one of the thigh bones we kept from the last one we killed out. And the thigh bone was 5 foot itself. This is just a thigh bone. It was 5 foot. All of this is documented and on record. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Red-haired giants even reported in English archives that when the first Trojans, Prince Brito, who became known, Latinized as Prince Brutus, who was the founder of what we call in England in the 1107, around that kind of time, BC we're talking, 1107, after the Trojan War, and they lost the Trojan War. A lot of them Trojans survived the army, and they came all the way to Britain and set up a new kingdom in Britain that they called Troyanova. Yeah, it was first called Troyanova. When the Romans came and took over Britain, they changed Troyanova, they Latinized it and called it Trinovantum. And then after Trinovantum in later times, they changed the name to Londonium. And then now in modern times, they drop off Neum and just leave it as London. But I've just gave you the brief history of the British Empire, which started from Black Trojans, King Brito. I say that to say this, when King Brito and them came here, they reported, and it's in the English records, yeah? I'll show you the book that speaks about this, written by a white Englishman that shows you all of this shit. When Brito and them came here, they encountered a race of tall, red-haired, cannibalistic giants, and they went to war against them, and they killed them out. They killed out all these giants. So it was reported not only in America, in the Americas with the Native Americans, it was also reported here in England, yeah? Look at Afghanistan. We don't even have to go back into no ancient stuff or no text or nothing. 2002, the American soldiers allegedly ran into an encounter with one of these red-haired giants in one of them Tora Bora caves in Afghanistan. This nigga dude was supposed to be 10 foot tall and weigh 500 keys. Yeah, I can just about push 120 keys. I'm on my max. I'm crap on chess. I should be doing more, 120 keys, yeah? This dude weighed 500 keys, 10 foot. The span of some of these giant shoulders is 10 foot, just the span of the shoulders. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is not a joke, yeah? So giants have been reported in all these places, America, England, Afghan, Antarctica, North America, all over North America with the mound builders, Israel, yeah, Lebanon, yeah, Japan, where they've got it on footage, one of their last remaining soldiers, and it's spoken about a lot in Japanese Shintoism. If you ever do a study of Shintoism, they speak about these giants. Egypt giants have been found. Ethiopia giants have been found. Not only in these places have giants been found, they've also found, you know, like what the native people say, like, or pictures of, yo, there was a giant here and his name was this and he lived with it. They verified these giants all over the shop. There was so much reports of these giant stories during the 1900s and going into the early of 19th century and going into the early of 20th century, yeah, and they were reported at the time because there wasn't a kind of like it was they hadn't decided, yo, let's bury these giants out of the story. That hadn't come yet. That came later. These were reported in the papers like the New York Post and shit. They were reported as they found them. Do you understand? All of these places, when you look in the Quran, yeah, of Muslims talk to you about the Famud people and the Ad people. They accredit Petra to a group of people called the Ad people, who the Quran says were giants. They were massive, and that's why they built all of these massive stuff. Yeah, that today we're like, yo, why is the door that big? Who built this? Couldn't have been niggas like 6 foot like me. This door's all of 20 foot. Why does this door need to be so big? Or the window's all of 15 foot? Do you see what I'm saying? According to the Quran and stuff, these were built by certain giants like the Ad people. And then also, even though we know our ancestors used sound to levitate stones and demagnetize stones and stuff, that's on site. It doesn't mean we floated that bitch from 4,000 miles away. We might well have had some giants that quarried that shit out the mountain and brought it to the site. And once it was at the site, now we're using the mind power to float the stones into place and stuff. But I'm damn sure, put my money on it, we didn't float them stones from 5,000 miles away like someone was just sitting here in a lotus position floating a stone from way over in France to come here. I'm not buying that. So there were giants involved in the construction of pyramids, temples, places like Stonehenge. Do you understand? Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo with the steps for the giants and stuff that I posted the other day on my account. All these places have giants involved. In the story of Solomon in Hebrew doctrine, they tell you how Solomon had jinns or spirits, demons and stuff under his control, and he had giants that was working for him, that was building temples and certain stuff for him. So all of these cultures and nations around the world are mentioning these giants. It's not just one culture or one religion or one race or one type of people. They all speaking about this same folklore. It's the same story. It seems to me that every nation had its own giants. And every nation wiped them out, whether they were in Africa, whether they were in India, whether they were in America, whether they were in Japan, they got wiped out. And if you ask me, a lot of it was humans wiping them out, turning against them, because a lot of the giants were clashing with humans, like the ones that wanted to be cannibals and be yamming humans and stuff. And there was a time when the giants were the rulers. They wasn't underneath humans. Yeah, humans were their subjects. We was looking up to them, like the Anunnakis and all them were giants themselves. So these giants were ruling over us. And a time came where it's like, hold on, the humans like, nah, we're not having this no more. And it came to a clash. And we won. We was like, nah, we wiping these giants out. And you might think to yourself, hold on, but these giants are massive. They should have won. But there's a whole bunch of problems that come with being a giant when your enemies us humans. Because we're small and nimble and there's so many of us. If you're a giant, you're clumsy. Do you understand? You're clumsy. Watch Game of Thrones. They might be good at certain things like smashing 10 man with one club. But that swing, by the time I've done that with my hand, yo, man could have all juked you up, because you're in slow motion compared to how humans are moving. So we wiped them out. One of the most famous stories is Lovelock Cave in America. Google it. Them natives ran these giants up in this cave, man, and trapped them in the cave. The giants had to flee. And when they got trapped in the cave, they blocked up the entrance and smoked them out, lit a fire and choked them out. All the giants died in there, suffocated from the fumes. When our experts went into that cave, they found these giant bones, man. Don't get twisted. They don't never found. Yeah, you have to have your ear to the street, to the archaeological circle and the who's who, to hear when certain things slip out. Otherwise, you're none the wiser. You're just watching Discovery Channel or National Geographic that's just telling you giving you this contemporary shit. Yeah? I'm not even halfway through yet. I hope you guys have got time. I want you to do this on purpose. If you got any questions, please put it on the thread. Or if I'm missing something, please put it on the thread, yeah? I'm getting to the Smithsonian Institute, which plays a big part in this shit, yeah? Because I wanted to unravel the whole thing, so I swear I had about 4 pages of notes. That's why it took so long to go through that universe stuff, so you would understand what's going on here a bit better. So people, historical figures like Nimrod, Gilgamesh, yeah, these were hybrids, yeah? These were hybrids that were half human, or sometimes two-third Anunnaki and one-third human if we're speaking in Gilgamesh's case. But most of them were half-half, or what we call in demigods, whether it's Nimrod, whether it's King Atana, and others, yeah, Hercules, whoever. Yeah. And then when you look on the iconography, that means the pictures on the walls, whether it's temples in Sumeria or India or Egypt or the Americas, they've always got giants in these iconography. Let's take Sumeria, for example. When Anunnaki, these man, yeah, the human might only be the span of the leg, like down here, while the Anunnaki's sitting here. You understand? The Anunnaki could hold a human in his hand. That's how big this Anunnaki is. You understand? So in the iconography, you can see it on the walls. And then when we get to Egypt, that you always, it's right in plain sight. Yeah, I posted one on my thing today where they show you a man and a woman sitting down, must be husband and wife, yeah. And then in between their feet is a small human. I'm not talking about a baby. Proportionately, that's an adult human, but it's only this big. It's not even the size of the giant's knee, and the giant seated. You understand? And this human is in between these two giants. So like I told you, there was a time when the giants were running things. So this shows me that, yo, those were giants. They say, oh, well, they drew the two figures made themselves big to show their status, societal status. If the more status you have, the more bigger they show you. Or some of these pharaohs, they show themselves massive, while people are little at their feet and stuff, not even like coming halfway near their shin and that. Oh, it's just a that's how they depicted status and that. That's bullshit, mate. I read hieroglyph, and if whatever size they are in that iconography, that's the size I'm talking about in scale. If you see a man in a hieroglyph and then you see a next man only the size of his shin, then that nigga was a giant. And the geezer near his shin, that was how big the geezer near his shin was in comparison to him. Don't let them fool you. So a lot of these giants are hidden right in plain sight. A lot of these faces, monuments, they tell us, oh, this is Khafre and this is this guy and this is, that's bullshit. These were the giants. Some of these monuments, these were the Nephilim that were here. Some of them is not even statues. They bust open one of these statues. The shit had ribs in that, man. Petrified ribs and stuff. Guts, intestines. Some of these things is not what you think they are. But we're going to get to that, the mud flood and the petrifying of stone and all of that shit there, yeah? Are you guys bored yet? Let me know if you're bored, yeah? So, yeah, Discovery Channel and National Geographic and all these mainstream programs, even Ancient Aliens, is really there to keep you away from the true history of the planet Earth. It's not there to really give you the truth. So even though they're assuming and saying, oh, was it aliens and rare, it's really a distraction, all of that shit there. And all of that started with the Smithsonian Institute because they started taking a big interest in the mounds, yeah? Some of these mounds were like 10 foot high, 18 foot long. And they were finding giants in there from 7 foot, some of them 9 foot, some of them 10 foot. They found giants in these mounds up to 16 foot. I'm sure one occasion there was one giant that was 28 foot. And we're not talking about them finding one giant. We're talking about when they find these giants, this is a society of giants. Like they'll find 200 warrior giants, you understand? Buried, laid out in a certain way. And in the same burial, they might find some humans too. They'll find, oh, so there was humans too. They've even found dwarfs, pygmies, the same Twa people that I'm telling you about. Not only in Egypt, they found these in America with the giants, living side by side, rude boy. So somebody told us some bullshit story in school, yeah? Because most of us don't know about this type of stuff here. Yeah, even around the Chula pyramids or Chola pyramids, they found these dwarves, loads of them. In one of the accounts of these conquistadors, the Spanish. They was looking for a river so they could supply their army with supplies. Which river was it again? I can't remember which river it was. Yeah, but while they was looking for this route, they encountered a tribe of 200 giants, warriors. All of them were 12 foot. And they were really aggressive, yeah, till they had to start like offering peace signs to these giants and giving them gifts, trinkets and stuff that they never seen. So they kind of appeased the giants. But these man were 12 foot tall. There was all of 200 of them, rude boy. Do you understand? This is documented shit. So the Smithsonian Institute started taking a liking. I'm getting too hot in here because I'm busting the window. Taking a liking to all these mounds and these stories of giants. They even had a department in the Smithsonian Institute specifically to deal with the subject of the mounds and giants. Do you understand? Money went into it. That what they would do, as soon as a giant was found and it was reported in the newspaper and experts would study it for for the first couple of weeks and stuff and confirm, yo, this shit's real. The Smithsonian Institute will buy it, will buy that shit, and as soon as they buy it, that's gone out. It's never seen again. Oh, where did that giant go? Which giant? You know, one of them ones. That's what their job is, the Smithsonian, and they've been doing that since the early 19th century when they decided, yo, there's about 300,000 mound giant discoveries in America alone. We don't even have to come outside of America. Just there alone, look at a map for discoveries of giants in America and look at it. Yo, it looks like a map of the population, like I'm looking at a map of the population of America or something. If someone didn't tell you, this is a map to show you how many giants have been found, because they used like the figures of people for everywhere. Yo, you're looking at this map, it looks like a friggin' map of the population or something. Just this is how much of these things they were finding till the Smithsonian had to, yo, we need to take this shit out the story, you know, because this is leading people somewhere, and we're trying to bring in a new narrative. So we're gonna have to erase all of this evidence about giants and shit. Yeah. Yeah. So they started erasing all evidence that a species of giants existed alongside humanity. And there's different tribes of giants if you're going by the Bible. When you go in the Bible's Genesis story and it's telling you about Anakim and Raphaim and Zuzumim and Imim, these are different giants. They're telling you about races of giants or hybrid, like people who have got giant blood in them, like Goliath. Yeah, these are giants. Yeah, right here, right hidden in your Bible, in plain sight for you. Yeah. Moorish Tartaria, I wanted to speak about more in the last live, because when we spoke about how Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand chucked the Moors out of Spain, the Moors weren't only in Spain. By that time, the Moors were everywhere in Europe. So the Moors was the nobility running all of Europe. Do you understand? Whether we're talking about England, whether we're talking about Scotland, whether we're talking about Germany, whether we're talking about Russia, whether we're talking about Scandinavia, all these places were run by black nobilities, Moors, who had spread from Spain. I forgot to mention in the last slide that they didn't just stay in Spain. They went all over Europe. They went into India and stuff. And they took their high civilization with them. That's what ended up becoming Tartaria. Obviously, the Moors are mixing with all, laying up with white women and all different type of women. So their societies were multicultural. When you go to Moorish territory, they got white folk there, they got Indian folk there, they got black folk there, they got mixed up looking folk there. This is how the Moors ran their thing when they were having their 700-year moment. And according to my research, they're the ones responsible for Tartaria and all the high technology of Tartaria, because they're the ones who put Europe in a period of enlightenment. And that most of the stuff we're using now in a modern sense was brought into Europe by Moors, because they was already using it when they crossed over into Europe in 711. Do you understand? So Moorish Tartaria is what I call Tartaria. The Barbary states was run by Moors. The Moors were the ruling families and the ones who took trade and made this Tartaria work, because the Moors networked the whole from east to west, whether it's in America, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in India, whether it's in Europe. They became the modern day Phoenicians, so to speak. You understand? And they're the ones who are responsible for the Barbary states, not no white folk, not no white Mongolians, no Genghis Khan and none of that crap there that they're trying to hijack the thing now. Tartaria is a Moorish thing, and it doesn't take a lot of research for you to get that. There's even real researchers, I'm talking about white people like Michelle Gibson, shout out to her on YouTube, who's thorough with her research, and they even say the same thing. Honest white people are telling you, yo, this shit here was washed out. Do you understand what I'm saying? So yeah, and so these Barbary states, Moorish Tartaria, included parts of America, parts of Europe, parts of China, parts of Russia, and parts of India. But the main, it seems like the center of Tartaria, they tell us, was some part in Russia. Yeah. Now, I'm sure you've all heard before about the mud floods, when you've heard people talking about Tartaria. Yeah, there seems to be some type of massive mud flood that happened and buried a lot of the old world. And it could be the case where it never even just happened once. It could have happened more than once. It could have happened a long time ago, and it could have happened recently. I really do believe that recently, I'm talking in the last 200 years and stuff, is when the mud flood, the one that's responsible for burying up a lot of the shit now, happened. And also, you can't really speak about the mud flood without mentioning there seems to have been some type of intense heat, just intense heat that just melted shit. Yeah, that explains where this mud came from. It might not even been mud. It might be just, yo, granite and stuff. Yeah, we can't cut that shit today. You need lasers and stuff, certain focus lasers to cut stone like diorite and granite. These are like some of the hardest stone on earth to work with. And they told us the Egyptians used copper chisels and shit, that you can't use a copper chisel today on no granite stone or no diorite stone. But anyway, the Egyptians used copper and shit, yeah? That's what they tell us, yeah? But what was I gonna say there again? Sorry. Yeah. So there's evidence, you can see it. You can go to the temple of Hathor in Kemet in Dendera, and the stairs, which is made out of granite, is melted. It's liquefied. You can see how it's set, that was melted in an instant. We're talking granite, man. So something had to be so hot. We're talking about hundreds of degrees. So hot that it liquefied the fucking granite steps. Yeah, I'll post it on my IG so you can see it for yourself, because when you see it, you get a better picture of what I'm talking about. So there was some kind of heat blast that melted shit. Yeah, and I think from that melting, yeah, whether it's rocks, soil, whatever, it comes across like mud, because otherwise there's no explanation for where this mud came from. We all know about meteor showers and cataclysms and stuff like that, or CME, or solar mass ejection, coronal mass ejection. You understand what I'm saying? That could account for some type of heat blast that happened on the world and melted out the old circuit board. Because remember, we're in a holographic reality, and you can look at any city, or you can look at the Earth on a flat scale, and it's basically just a computer motherboard. Yeah, when you're looking at cities and stuff and all of that, that's just like a computer motherboard. If you take it far away from your eye and look at a city from far, you're looking at the same thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, if you take a fire and melt that computer board and watch it melt up and curl up and stuff, when it's done, that shit look like some ancient temples and stuff. It's like, hold on. Yo, when I look at these ancient temples and how they half melted up and petrified rock and stuff, yo, it's like when I melt one of these computer motherboards and half of the stuff's all, yo, it's the same. Try it. Yeah, you'll see what I'm getting at. When I get to the point where I'm sharing my screen and I can show you pictures, you'll understand better. But bear with me. I hope you did get what I said there. But anyway, whether the mud flood happened in the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, or 18th century, I can't tell you for certain. But I do believe that it happened recently in one of them. I'm talking about since after slavery, since after Columbus and all that 14th century shit, some kind of massive thing happened, whether it was a cataclysm and it melted everything, whether that mud flood goes way further back to the Younger Dryas period where we know there was intense heat in that period. I can't tell you. I don't have all the answers. I'm still researching. I'm just sharing my notes with you. But what I'm giving you in this piece is something to consider, because the mud flood, that's not my opinion. That's, you could say that's an established fact now. Most wise people know, yo, there was a mud flood that happened, and most of the shit around the world, cities and everything, houses, the lot, was buried under like 5 meters of mud. Where's the mud come from? You understand? Nobody's ever explained it. They never put it in our textbooks. Most of these cities around the world, if we went and dug up London, London was made again on a higher level, because there's a London underneath London, and then there's probably another London underneath that London. Something buried that old London, and then another London was put on top of what was buried, and then it happened again, and then another London was put on top of what was buried, and nobody ever informed me and you until you may be an architect. Maybe you're into architecture, and you as an architect you've got a project and you're in London on this big project building, and they strip this building down, and then you see, yo, hold on, this shit's got like 3 stories underneath ground level. How come it's the stories underneath ground level have got windows? Why have they got windows under there? Do you understand? And some of these buildings are massive. I'm talking about, yo, why did somebody build this building so big for his little eyes? Buildings were a lot bigger. Castles were massive. Methods of building, we don't use them methods no more because we don't know we never knew how to do that in the first place. We never built none of that shit. That's what Tartaria is, where it was inherited. And when I say it was a Moorish thing, I'm not saying the Moors built everything there. Them too could have went there and inherited a lot of the shit that was there. A lot of stuff went on before the Moors came on the scene. It's not everything they built, but they was running that Tartary shit under their system. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, so the mud flood goes together with some type of intense heat. I think it's a CME, like the sun lashed out one of them CMEs or something, and they never told us because the shit happens more often than we've been told. Like, let's say it happens every 400 years or every 200 years. Do you understand? But we won't tell no one, yeah? When this shit happens, we'll just run off and go in our bunkers like we've always done, yeah? Or this time we'll try and fly off, try and crack the dome and fly out. We're not telling them nothing. They're still dumb. They still believe in like the cows made jumped over the moon and all of that shit. They still chasing Jesus and arguing about Islam. Yo, I believe shit like that's been happening for a long time, and we've just been kept in all these dumb ideologies, man, to argue amongst each other. Yeah. Also, I want to say, your government is a religion, and your religion is a government. I'm talking about those of you who are still in Christianity and still in Islam and still in Judaism and all that type shit, yeah, and you ain't made your way back home yet. You people, your government is part of the religion, and your religion is part of the government. The two shits is tied together. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it's based on belief. It's not based on any evidence. Yeah. So you got the church and the mosque that went about, yeah, erasing all the evidence of the old world, labeling it pagan or heathen. And they did that sanctioned by governments. Each government sanctions these religions, churches and shit. They give them tax breaks and all types of shit. Yeah, this goes back to since day. Kings were doing this so that the church could speak him up and say the king's about God and all of that. The church or religion, mosque, government, them shits have been tied from the jump. You understand what I'm saying? So the church, when it comes to this side of the world, the West, they went into America. They was burning up Mayan codexes. They was burning up Aztec stuff. They was melting down Inca gold and stealing out the gold every year. Do you know how much gold these men took out of America every year? I seen the records. I read it where there was like, I can't even remember what it was. But let's just say they were taking like 40 billion worth of gold out of America. This is just the Spanish. Like every year for 20 years. Do you know how much gold these men took out of there? Yo, it's crazy. So the church done that. So at the same time, when they're burning up all of the ancient texts, saying, "Oh, it's evil, pagan," the Mayan Codex and the Popol Vuh is the only Mayan text that survived from that fucking purge, from that burning. The Popol Vuh escaped. I can't even remember the story of how it escaped, but somehow nature said, "Yo, this one, I'm saving this. I want the people to read this shit." So Mother Nature saved that one, but it burnt out all of these Aztec and Mayan and Toltec and all kind of Nahuatl creation stories. They could have been shit in there about giants and all type of shit that could have given us some dot connectors. They just burnt that shit out. And when I say burnt that shit out, remember what I said to you guys. They don't just burn people's shit up. First, they photocopy that shit or take it and put it in the Vatican or wherever else, the Smithsonian or whatever. They tell you the shit's gone. They're studying that shit behind closed doors. They gleaming all the information they need to gleam out of that shit. Boom. You can't have it. It's the same for the Library of Alexandria. Do you think they just went there and burned down a library of knowledge that they could learn about literally everything? Hell no. That was a psyop. Nigga, they took that shit. That's why the Vatican's got all them miles of secret archives underneath. 16-mile long whatever of people's shit. Do you understand what I'm saying? We need to get to that. Forget about the museums giving us back our stuff. What about when we turn up at the Vatican and we pull up on the Smithsonian like, yo, let's see what you got in here, rude boy. Yo, I pray to God that someone from my bloodline is there when that shit happens, because it will happen. And so the mosque done it on the other side when it comes to Egypt, and when it comes to the Far East and Zoroastrianism in Persia and the Persian Empire. Islam erased all of that shit, and the history of the black people, or the Nabateans in Nabatea, which is like from Ethiopia going to Yemen, going to parts of Arabia, the Hijaz and shit. Yo, they erase it and give you a pseudo history, some dumbass history. You understand? Slagging everyone off who wasn't Muslim. So history today is based on belief with no facts, just like religion, because it's done by... History today is written by religious people. The religious people who fucked up the planet, they rewrote this narrative. You understand? So history reads like religion right now, because it's just a bunch of beliefs. There, you struggle to find facts in conventional history. Do you understand? And that's why as soon as a dig happens, and they dig up something like, hold on, this first dated to 3000 BC, but now we've digged further down. There's older layers, and now the date's been pushed back to 20,000 BC. Yeah, stop that dig. Soon as you go past 6,000 BC, yo, stop that dig, rude boy. Governments would jump in, or whoever needs to stop that dig, because now you're going to expose us. Do you understand? So that's what started going on. Yeah, and the church and the mosque and governments, they all work together. In Islamic countries, the government work with the mosque. Yeah, in Christian countries, the government work with the church. Yeah, in Jewish countries, the government work with the synagogue. Like, all religion is in on this shit. Only a muppet will believe that, oh, my religion is totally correct and there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, because some Arab dude said that this is the word of God, or some Roman idiot said this is the word of God, or some Jewish knobhead said this is the word of God, and y'all took that. That's just like the jab. That's just like saying, okay, it's harmless, take it, you need it, or you're gonna die. It's harmless, take it. Either you believe or you don't. That's what people are doing with religion. It's the same thing. So when the government's coming out with this wonton soup and telling you to take it, that's just like the Christian man telling you, yo, Jesus died for your sins, we want you to worship him. That's just like the Muslim man telling you, yo, Jesus ain't God, Muhammad's the last prophet, take your shahada. It's all a belief thing, and people can't see it, that they in a box. Anyway, let's go on. Yeah, this is why they have to change names. They change the names of persons, places and things, as we've mentioned briefly before, and they even go as far as changing the whole language. Yeah, and appropriating the culture, erasing locations off of maps, like we said about Ashkenaz and certain other places like Judah in Western Africa, because they proved that black people, Igbo people and Lemba people and Falashas are the real Israelites. So in the time of slavery, on the slavery maps, all the slave maps had on Judah. In West Africa near the kingdom of Benin and stuff, they had Judah. These were the people who ran out the Levant after the Persians burned down the temple and cleaned out the Israelites. Israelites ran back to Africa, man. And it was documented. So they erased that shit off the map. Today we might call it Burkina Faso or some other made up name. Yeah, well, that's Judah, bro. You understand? They erase places off the map. They erase persons, places and things to confuse you. So when you look through this stuff and you're trying to connect dots, if you don't know what names things were changed from and what names things were changed to, you could get lost in this shit. This is how the Muzungu works. Yeah. Upside down maps, they flip the map upside down. So it looks like Europe is on top, when really Europe is at the bottom of the map. Europe ain't at the top. Right is left and left is right. Up is down and down is up. You understand? But we don't know this. We just think because we got a degree, we smart. Nigga, you ain't smart just because you got a degree. You washed. You probably got a good memory. Do you understand what I'm saying? They tell us how the world is a globe spinning around with no water falling off it. We don't understand what a toroid field is and how the earth is a level plane. Do you understand? We don't understand how certain mountains, it's not a mountain. That was a building that's petrified. Just like I told you, when the heat came and melted out stone and shit, a lot of these buildings got petrified. A lot of these mountains, some of them are buildings, castles, massive castles and stuff, for giants, and some of them are trees, like Table Mountain in South Africa, where you can see it. The top is just flat. Nigga, that's a petrified tree. That's a tree stump. But we've been programmed, okay, yeah, it's a mountain. When you get a chance, go and look at Table Mountain in South Africa. If you ask me, that was the Avatar tree on Earth. You know how they had that big tree on Avatar in the middle of the shit? AWA, whatever they call the shit. Yeah. And bear in mind, Avatar is a true story too. Everything in it is based on a true story. There's nothing fiction in there. It's true. Yeah. But anyway, on Earth, we had a similar setup with the tree. Yeah, we had massive trees, man, that these reptilians and archons, they chopped out to change the environment. I believe that's what brought in all of this heat and shit. They must have did that shit first. Like, chopped out the trees and stuff, and it had some kind of climatic effect. I ain't got all the answers. I'm still unraveling it. I'm just sharing my notes with you guys. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, Table Mountain in South Africa, you can see evidently that's a tree, mate, and it's petrified. Okay? So our universe is in its dying days, man. This is why it fell into this bleaching out of life. This is why everything's bleached and everything's been made different. Yeah. And as I said, we represent the pinnacle of the natural forces of the creative forces of life in Mother Nature, whereas he represents the opposite. He's the pinnacle of the natural forces of death in Mother Nature. Yeah. I want to say as well, there's no such thing as mixed race. When you mix races, that person is still either going to be black or going to be so washed out he can't be considered black no more. So there's really, we shouldn't be calling people mixed race. You're either black or you're not. You're either melanated or you're not. It comes to a certain point where, okay, you're not considered melanin, you're Mzungu. Your shit gone. You get me? But other than that, all mixed race people are melanated. They're black people. Yeah, Malcolm X was mixed race. Bob Marley was mixed race. There's a lot of people that was mixed race that you probably wouldn't even know there was mixed race. Zoe Saldana, that's in what's it? Guardians of the Galaxy. They paint her up all green and stuff. She's been in a couple movies like Colombiana. I never even knew this girl was mixed race. I thought she was full black. I can't. Some of these mixed race people, you can't even tell they mixed race. You can't just look at Malcolm X and say, okay, yeah, he's mixed race. You won't be able to tell. That's a made up word. You either got dominant genes, which give you brown, melanated pigment, yeah, or you don't. You have such low levels that it don't even show and you appear pale, like you've got albinism. You understand what I'm saying? But this is how they mix this out by the genetics, yeah, because it only takes 2 washes to wash you, the black man, into a Mzungu. Yeah. If one of your children goes with a white person and then their mixed race children goes with a white person, there's not even no trace of you left in that you. I've got nieces and nephews like this. Blonde hair, blue eye, nieces and nephews, rude boy. I'm being real with you. Where, yo, I've got mixed race sisters. One of them decided to go with a Mzungu. Yeah. And if you see them children, if them children at school saying, yo, Jadefre is my uncle, I bet children would say, piss off. You're lying, mate. This is how white these children look. It only takes 2 washes for you to wash out yourself. Yeah. So they use this amalgamation to wash out the nations, yeah? They wash this out. And like I said, the giants that came, the Alibarans, yeah, these Hindu people, but they look like Mzungu, like Nikola Tesla and, what's the other one? WD Farr, the Nation of Islam. All these are Alibarans, yeah? Obviously, not all of them at all. The main, what did you call it? The ruling class are giants, but the working class are normal size like me and you. And some of the working class are agreeable. They're not disagreeable. Some of them tried to help out what was going on with their shit. So you get beings like Nikola Tesla that was trying to help out. You get beings that like Elvis Presley, believe it or not, that was trying to help out. Marilyn Monroe, who's another one that was trying to help out. Edward Lelskalnin, who built the Coral Castle, he was trying to help out. W.D. Fard, he was trying to help out. That's why he went to the black people and tried to give them knowledge of self. And people are, hold on, why is this white man gone to Elijah Muhammad and kind of like giving him all these jewels and shit? And where did this white man come from? And where did he get these fucking jewels from? Nobody ever asked this shit. People just accept this thing. Okay, this guy's Allah. Nigga, the guy ain't Allah. The niggas are Alibaran. That's what he is. Yeah. Also, they've found giants in Las Vegas. They've found giants in France. There's Roman chroniclers that speak about the giant that he's seen with 60 teeth, 6 digits, 10 foot across the shoulders, 125 feet in height. There was a giant in 1816 that was found in France that was 30 foot. They found the complete skeleton in burial. They have footage and shit, pictures and the whole receipts. 30 foot, man. Do you understand? Buried with all these like weapons, royal garbs, clothes. These weren't dumb. They dressed, they had swords, they drank, they sung, they got musical instruments. Mad thing. Like we're watching Beowulf or some one of them Hollywood things. Yeah? Yeah, so also I want to say when we speak about ancient Greece and Rome, and a lot of the time we see them as Mzungu, we see them as white nations, or the beginning of Europe, white nations, but they weren't exactly white nations. These are the mixed races. These are the children of the fallen angels and giants and stuff. When they be raping out these black women and shit, it results in groups like Romans. Like there's a whole group of these hybrids. Okay, now we're gonna call them Romans. Okay, there's another group over here. Okay, we're gonna call these ones Greeks. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? Some of these nations that they give us in history and stuff, these are the fucking hybrids. These Mozungus and stuff. These came from these are not natural to this planet. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's why today I tell you that, yo, these Mozungu around you, they are part of the hybrid thing that happened on Earth, Dan. We don't get that. Yeah? Hold on, where was I? Yeah, the reptilians have kept this up for millennia using a tiptoe approach. They use watershed events to hide truths and twist the truth, twist that event into something that it's not, or interpret it into something that it's not, to cover up some truth underneath it, and then they implement the false narrative in that way. That's what's been going on for the last 200 years of false history. Everything they've taught us about the last 200 years is false. It's a false history. It's a false narrative. You understand? When we're talking about the founding of America, 1776, and all of that shit is straight bullshit. Yeah. When they talk about electric and technology, and electric was invented in this year, and the light bulb was invented in this year, this car was invented, and flight happened, all that shit's bullshit. Like, we had electric or light, we already had technology better than the technology that we have now, more durable, more useful, more beneficial, less harmless. Yeah, didn't pollute the planet, none of that shit. Yeah, they couldn't monetize none of that stuff. We had the best medicine, homeopathic medicine. You understand? All of that shit. Like I said, we had giants in the earth, and when I say giants, I'm not just talking about giant humans. We had giant trees, or you could call super trees. Yeah, we had giant human beings. We had giant animals, whether it's giant insects like giant dragonflies, giant ants, giant everything. There was massive size humans, and there were small size humans. There was massive size trees, and there were small size trees. There were big horses, and there were small midget horses. Everything had this reflection in this realm. We're in a polarity. You understand? But they wiped out one side of the story to keep us in this dumbed down consciousness. And you might think, why? Why are they erasing all this stuff? It's simple, just to keep your consciousness shrunk. So you think, yo, this story that they gave us, that we're alone in this, there's 100 billion stars just in this galaxy alone. Yeah? But they've told us we're alone. There's nothing out there. You shouldn't be watching the sky. There's nothing for you to worry about. Aliens don't exist. Jedi Memnon's a conspiracy theorist. He's a nut. Don't watch him. We're going to censor him. Everyone who disagrees with us is crazy. That's what it's... And people take this. Go to work every day. Yo, okay, cool. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Crazy shit. Okay, I'm getting to the end now, guys. Yeah. So at this time of the age of exploration, the Smithsonian Institute and other institutions like the Egyptian Antiquities Department, which came a bit later, all of these institutions are under what's called the Historical Society. This is a group of Mozungu elites, yeah, who decide what can be put in history and what can't be put in history. Yeah, they're the ones who say things like, oh, that's not a giant, he's just suffering from gigantism. It's a gene, his pituitary gland is gone funny, so it makes him grow big. Oh, that's not a reptilian baby, that's what you call whatever the fuck that word is in science, that long ass word that begins with I, and they say, oh yeah, he's not a reptile, he's just got like a real bad form of eczema and shit, rare. Or when they see them Bigfoot shaggies that show you that white folk and Asian folk have got that Bigfoot DNA in their DNA. So some of them are born with what's called Hirsutism, where the hair grows everywhere. It's not just on their head or their chin. Their whole face is like a dog. It's like a man dog, like a werewolf, like Teen Wolf and shit. Hurts. That's showing you that, yo, you man have got that Bigfoot gene. Cause I ain't got hair. I ain't got hair on my shoulders. I ain't got hair on my back. I don't have no hair. Hardly any hair on my chest. Like anybody who you see, oh, I've got friend, yeah, Asian guy, Indian. He's got more hair on both his shoulders than his head. His head's bald, but yo, his two shoulders have got like hair. You understand? Like, yo, these are hybrid people. No disrespect to him, he's my friend. But the truth is the truth. These people, other race, none of them are full human except black people. That's why we don't carry this Neanderthal body hair and animal hair and shit. We ain't spliced with animals. We only carry hair here. And hardly on our, you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying there's not black people who have got hair, hairy face, and of course we have, we've mixed. Yeah, but originally we don't carry no heavy bodily hair and no heavy facial hair and none of that shit. Look at your Egyptian records and stuff, man. Look at your Sumerian records. We weren't like that. That shit came from the giants and the invaders. So giants have been found around the world from 7 foot, like we said with the Watusis, which is pretty normal. Shaq and them are 7 foot. You got basketballers that are 7 foot and shit. Yeah, but the biggest one I've heard and I've seen for myself in my research is 28 feet. There's one that's reported to have been 36 feet, and I told you they found one 30 feet in 1816 in France. But that I found that out today. On my own research, I got up to the one they found that was 28 feet. Do you understand what I'm saying? And he was taller than all the other ones around him because he was in a community of giants. A lot of these giants they found in America is not one giant. They find communities of these mound builders. They call them mound builders. Some of these guys are 12 foot, 16 foot and shit. A community of them. Yeah, the women might be a bit smaller. Like if the men are 12 foot, the women are 10 foot. They're all giants, rude boy. And humans live around them. Do you understand? Like different Native American tribes was living with these giants until these giants, the cannibalistic ones, started causing too much brown and yam off all the humans. So the humans had to get wicked and wipe them out to fight these guys off. These American Indians will sit down and tell you about it. They have that shit in their oral history. They remember this shit. Some of them souvenirs, bones and stuff that they family kept and tell you, yo, my great granddad killed this dude. We still got the nigga thigh bone in here. So the Historical Science Society, working through institutions like the Smithsonian Institute, saw to it that they bought all the giants and hid them, took them out of circulation. That seems to be their job. Yeah. But I want you to remember that the hybrid giants are unsanctioned beings when we're talking about the grand scheme of things and galactic law, what we spoke about in the lives about Anu and the cosmic kingdom. These are the unsanctioned beings. They're not supposed to be here. Maybe that's why they had it. Everything was against them from the start. That's why they have to be on the ground. And I want to say as well, and it may be even traced back to the flood, which I put in my book Treasures in the Sand at 10,860 BC or 10,960 BC, around that time. And all the research now, they keep coming when they bring you to Göbekli around that date. Yeah, they say 10,500 BC out there, but when you get to the details, you hear them say 10,800. So I'm closer to the shit than I even thought. They're unsanctioned species, yeah, and I believe they use cloning techniques to increase their numbers. I believe that the reptilians and whoever is their masters know that they don't breed well, so they clone a whole group of these niggas and release them on worlds, release them on societies and shit. Once they release them and they don't have to clone them no more, you can see they don't really breed well. But it seems like with these orphan trains and these incubator babies, that some type of cloning engineering or some shit that we're not privy to was going on to, where did all these babies come from? Where did they all come from? World War One or Two ain't even happened yet. That shit don't happen till 1914. We're in the 17th and 18th centuries, and we got all these fucking babies and orphans. And where the hell did they come from? From which war? These are clones, man. Yeah. So, like I said, papers like the New York Times were reporting these shits before it became an agenda to erase it out of public circulation. I believe they started that once they invented the printing press. In the 1700s, I speak about it a lot and tell you guys that was a game changer. Just like the internet, that's how you should see the printing press. When the internet came along, everything changed. The way information is shared between us is different. You can't control information. They dig up a giant today, everybody knows about it in 2 minutes. It's on the net. So everything has to change. How they did this shit caused wars when they brought in the printing press. Because information now, information can be mass distributed. You can control a narrative now. You can have a group shape, a group think now, whereas you couldn't do that before without a printing press. You probably could, but it would be like 100 times harder for you to do it. Now it's like the click of a button thing. We got a printing press, nigga. We can tell you what's real and what's not. We can tell you what can be printed and what can't be printed. We can make sure that everybody's running off the same narrative at every part of the earth because we got a printing press. Now the new super printing press, you can see that as the internet. And the new super internet, you can see that as this 5G AI metaverse thing. So the same things are going to happen where everything is going to drastically change. I shouldn't say gonna, it's already drastically changed. So it's impossible to control the flow of information today, yeah, where this printing press is morphed into what's the internet and all of this information overload that we've got now. That's why they're showing you so much advertisements every day, because it's all about how you interact with this advertisement, whether you like it or not, whether you act off it and all of that shit. They calculated everything, and it's AIs that are doing this. Yeah, and Abraham Lincoln himself in 1848, I want you guys to Google his visit to the Niagara Falls and what he said about the mound builders in his great speech, which is on record. And he spoke about these giants. And this is one of the most greatest figures in American history when they speaking about their dumbass presidents. So this nigga's there at Niagara Falls speaking about how ancient these giants are and how their blood goes way back to through the history of humanity. You understand? So either he's crazy like me, or there's something that somebody doesn't want us to know. So that's 1848. Niagara Falls, Abraham Lincoln, and his great speech about these giants or these mound builders. Yeah. So back to the universe thing. Before the moon mist, 6 Eva, yeah, there was no death, just transcendence. You just manifest a different body if you had to. There was no sickness. There was no predatory animals. There was no predatory plants like Venus flytrap and all of that kind of shit. You could eat literally anything. Any fruit that you've seen, you could eat that shit. Any vegetable that you've seen, you could eat that shit. There's no poisonous fruits or poisonous vegetables or haram food or none of that shit. This is 17,250,000 years ago. That's when the moon mist came. So before that point, 17,250,000 years ago, life wasn't even like how it was now. Do you understand what I'm saying? It was totally different. The climate of the world was totally different. We wasn't tilted to a 23-degree axis, so we didn't have no fucking season, spring, autumn, winter, and all of that crap. We just had a tropical climate, and all of the continents were interlocked together in the middle, yeah, surrounded by water. Everywhere was tropical for us, yeah. We had abundance of love light. It was a magical realm. This was a heaven on earth. After the nuclear fallout of the moon mist, 17,250,000 years ago, yeah, when the magnetic sun changed to the electrical sun and started putting out this Leviathan, these 6 Eva imminences, like I said, it's like nuclear fallout. After that mushroom cloud goes, everything in that radius is polluted. You're talking air, water, animals, everything. It's polluting everything. So now you get predatory animals. Now you get poisonous plants. Now you got water that you can't drink. Now you got disease. Now you got sickness. Now the yugas are changing. Do you see what I'm saying? Now you get because we've gone into that winter of existence, that old age of the universe. You're getting beings manifesting in this realm now pale, like in the rigor mortis, like they're dying out. They're at the end of genetics. We're at the end of the magic now. You see what I'm saying? We're gonna have to move from this quadrant through the black hole into a new quadrant, and that's what the Nibiru's come to do, which is a discussion for another day, to use Dr. Mumby's term. Yeah, that's a whole other life. Yeah, but anyway, changes. When this nuclear fallout comes, things start to change in creation. It changes them in their appearance. It changes them in their nature. It changes them in their size. This is the universe in death. Yeah. And this is why, if you check the Mzungu, man, yeah, we know the nose is where we breathe in the life, air, ether, oxygen. We breathe life in through our nose, which is the symbol of life. Yeah. Now we're in the death cycle. Ask yourself why the nose is always chopped off the statues. You would say, oh, it's because it shows it's black people. But there's levels to the meaning. It's also to show you that you're in the age of death. And we're going to cut your fucking life force off. Do you understand? That's why the nose is cut off, which represents the pyramid. The nose is your personal pyramid on your face that gives you life. Do you understand? Or your house of life. And they chopped all the noses off to show you that we're in the age of death. We're going to cut off your life force, yeah? And also, it shows you that somebody knows something that they don't want you to know. Do you understand? So there's symbolism in everything. But this climate change from the nuclear fallout in the winter of existence changed the atmosphere to make it conducive to these fallen angels to be able to come here and prosper on this planet, because now the vibration is lowered. Now it's been brought down. They can come into this atmosphere and manipulate it. And also, I'll mention as well, to do with the giants. After the cataclysm of the ice caps melting and the flood, and the planet tilted, it thinned out the atmosphere to the point where a lot of these giants couldn't deal with the UV rays. It's too much for them, because naturally they had acclimatized to what the world was before. So when the moon mist came, and after a while the flood came and melted out the ice caps, which is what, 10,860 BC, around that time, it thinned out the atmosphere where a lot of these giants had to go underground. That's why now they're finding their ass in Antarctica and in the underground caverns, underground Afghanistan and stuff. These niggas don't have the surface no more. They don't walk around out here on the surface. They can only spend a certain amount of time in the sun, just like Mzungu folk. Yeah, so they have to be out of the sun or off the surface. Yeah, and that's why they found a lot of them in Antarctica, some of them dead. They put themselves in cyro sleep, in like a kind of suspended sleep. Some of them died in that sleep, some of them didn't. They was able to wake some of these giants up. Yeah, so what I say all that to say, all of this affected Earth, in the beings that Earth produced, the size of the beings, the atmosphere, the longevity of the beings, the intelligence and consciousness of certain beings. We were smarter before in our beginning. So the historical timeline showing us this linear progression and Darwinistic natural selection is totally wrong based on what I've just given you here. Yeah, I've got one more page to go through with you guys, and I'll let you lot get on with it. Yeah, so that one in Afghanistan in 2002, that giant that they found with the red hair that came out and speared one of the soldiers and lifted him up, because the natives have been telling the soldiers, yo, there's giants around here, you know, you don't want to go down there, rude boy. The native Afghanis was saying, listen, there's giants around there. You know how white people are, giants. Yeah, they think it's some joke thing, right? Until one of the squadrons went missing. So now they're like, yo, we got to go and look for these guys, mate. These niggas ain't come back. And this is a capable squadron. Yeah, they don't need to worry about this squadron, but this squadron's missing now. So they gone looking for this squadron. Yeah, they start seeing clothes. Like, yo, that's my man's helmet. Yo, that's my man's bag. They follow these clothes to this cave. All of a sudden, this big Mzungu runs out, 10 foot tall, yeah? 800 kilograms. 800 kilograms, man. He's nearly 1 ton. The nigga runs out with one of them big pokers, pokes one of the soldiers, yeah? Lifts him up in the air. Oh, some ogre sound. They let off on this thing. Spray it up, the thing dies. Yeah? When they reported what happened, the brass in America's like, yo, wrap my man up and bring that, let's study it. They wrapped him up, chucked him on a fucking one of them big Chinook helicopters or whatever. You know, them things that carry like tanks and shit. Yo, put him in one of them bags, flew him back to America. They probably got him in one of them bunkers trying to make super soldiers out of his DNA or some shit like that. I swear down, these niggas is demons, man. So most of these giants were hostile. Like I said, they did have giants that were good-natured, but they didn't have red hair and Mzungu skin. They look like me and you. And you can see them depicted on the walls in Egypt and certain other places in Sumeria and stuff. Yeah, India and stuff. They weren't all bad. Some of them were good. The ones that were cannibal, you always hear them reported as pale skin, red hair, giants. The Mzungu tries to use it to try and go on like, well, the Native Americans weren't the natives because there were people here first, yeah? White people. But they try and give it to you like this was just normal human like me and you human white people when it was fucking giants. This is Nephilim we're talking about. You see what I'm saying? So don't let them fool you. So most of these hostile giants all over the planet, man, came to a point where humans had to go against them. And humans got wise enough to know, yo, let's not wait for them to come for us. We need to go and hunt them and kill them out. So humans started making hunting parties, yeah? And I got this from the Akasha Records, this piece. They made hunting parties, and all over the world, we was hunting giants. And anywhere we found them, we killed their clock because they were nyamming people. They were cannibalistic, these red-haired giants, yeah? And you find it over, you can find that in European folklore and European history. You can find it in African history. You can find it in South American, Central American, North American history. Yeah, you can find the evidence for it everywhere. You don't have to believe it. All you need to do is research what we're talking about here, and you'll see I'm not chatting shit. A lot of these giants went into hiding in many different places. Yeah, humans turned on them after heavy subjugation and even worship. Remember before, humans used to worship these giants. Yeah, they got took off the scene by humans, and then all evidence of the story of how there used to be giants and there were great wars between humans and giants, they were erased from the records. And I believe that a lot of these Kabbalistic bloodlines, they have blood from these giants. They don't necessarily have to be tall today to have blood from them giants. And tall, even somebody like 6'8", 6'9", that's tall. He could have giant DNA in there. Do you understand? And as I said, they don't necessarily have to be tall. Even if he was fucking 5'6", he could still be related to giants and stuff. So I believe they took out certain things to, because in the end it's ammunition to tie where they come from. These Alibaran, Kabbalistic, Khazarian families, these grafted races, man. So the mound builders is a subject area that you guys should really do a independent study of for yourself to see that what I'm saying about giants is not fairy tale thing. And also, after you've did that study on giants, do your own independent study on Tartaria and its themes, meaning the mud flood and the petrified rocks and the trees and shit like that. You should do you shouldn't just take my word for it. Yeah, or you shouldn't write my word off and say he's talking crap. You should go and look into that unbiasedly with an open mind, with a pen and paper yourself. And I'm not talking about just for an hour. I'm talking about you should maybe spend 2 weeks on it. Maybe one day you do an hour on it, and you watching a few documentaries. Maybe another day you read it. You read some article, yeah, or you spent half an hour reading articles, or you purchased yourself a book and you're going to take your time and take in this book. I'm talking about that sort of research. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, all this goes back to what we've said in other lives, to fertility and genetics, genes. And remember what I told you, the word holy, yeah, which comes from Helios, and halo, yeah, which is to do with the sun, is also linked to the word whole, meaning unmixed, undiluted. It's whole, it's 100%. So when it says Noah was the only man that was holy, or Utnapishtim, at that time he was the only family that Anunnaki in that region. Oh, hold on, mate, all these people are mixed out with these Nephilims and shit. There's only one family in this region that's not mixed out. My man, Utnapishtim. My man's holy, my man's pure. Do you understand what I'm saying? It wasn't this religious thing what they're giving you in church today. and in Islam and all of this stuff. That's the fairy tale, not this. This is for real. You can go and find evidence of this shit. You can't go and find me no Muhammad, or find me no Jesus, or find me no Moses. You can't even find me Moses' his chair or his staff. Yeah, you can't find me Jesus t-shirt. But this shit, what I'm telling you here, I can give you receipts all day for this shit. Do you understand? We find these pharaohs and they kendakis. Yeah, so holy means unmixed, and people like Utnapishtim, who's called Zui Sudra or Atrahasis, and who is mythologized as Noah, yeah, and other characters like Moses when he put his hand in his in his clothes, and his hand turned leprous when he took it out. That means his genes were black, yeah. And you can go to Genesis 28, verse 1 in the Bible, and realize that the Anunnaki is racist then, because the Anunnaki is telling these Israelites, yo, don't mix yourself with these Canaanites, yeah, with these white men. Don't take no wives from them. Take wives from your own women, your own black women and stuff. Don't mix with these people. If you mix with these people, I'm cutting you off. This is basically what the Anunnaki is saying throughout. He reminds these Israelites, this is Jacob is talking to in 28:1. And then when we go to, sorry, Isaac, and then when we go to Genesis 24:3, he's now talking to Jacob the same thing until it becomes law. You can't marry none of these Canaanite Mzungu women, man. They're going to corrupt you. They're going to corrupt your genes and everything. We're going to have to cut you off because you are family. So if you mix with these lot, you bringing these genes into our family. Like, we don't understand that because we're only looking at the religious thing. We're not really looking at this thing for what it really is. You understand? So if I'm a racist, then your God's a racist. God's racist too, because God favors certain people over other people. So God is not all loving in the Bible, because God has preferences. Or Anunnaki, you can interchange the word God, Anunnaki, Elohim, Netera, whatever word makes you feel comfortable. You understand? But that force is not all loving. There's people that God don't fuck with. Do you understand? And the pale man is one of them people. And I don't care how heavy that sounds, the receipts for it is in the white man's own Bible. It's there. It's in his words. I don't even have to use Treasures in the Sun on none of my books. I'll pick up his own Bible and use his own Bible to show him, yo, it's in your thing. All the shit's in your thing. I don't even have to pick my book up. This is not to convince you. This is for my family and for my people, to put it in a more crystal clear terms, because you made us have to jump through a gauntlet and find a needle in a haystack and separate truth from falsehood. It's a long thing. Now that I've done all that, I'm going to put it in a presentable format so that people can just take that like a bowl of porridge. You understand? Yeah, that's what we're doing. So let me finish off for you. It's time to realize and step into your truth, man, and rewrite your own narrative and stop letting these people teach you. The enemy is not supposed to be teaching our children about history or about spirituality and religion. And if we don't, I'm not saying to just take your children out of school, you know, but if you don't have some kind of method of showing your children, most of what they're telling you in school is a trick. And your job is to figure out why they're only teaching you about a certain set of stuff. You need to be inquisitive and find your own truth. We're Tarites, meaning Pathites, meaning we have to find our own path. We're not here to just listen to a next man's beliefs, because beliefs create realities. So if other people are creating beliefs for us and we're believing in this shit, whether we believe giants never existed or we don't believe in magic, all of that shit has effects on what we've created for ourselves here, this crap prison. We literally can't do nothing. We can't fly. We can't transfer thoughts. We used to could have do all this shit. We've accepted this lies and these beliefs so much that we've created this trap for ourselves. We can't do nothing. We only got 5 senses. We're only using 10% of our brain now. You understand what I'm saying? Time to step into our power, man, and take back our power and rewrite our own narrative. And that's by unifying with those of like vibrations. That's why y'all are here right now listening to me when you could be doing anything in the world, and I salute you for that. Yeah, but now we got to turn that into action. Like, we got to be asking ourselves, what can I do to reiterate this message? Who can I send this to who it might have a hold on them, and then they can send it to someone else? Because I'm telling you now, most of what's out there is not leading you nowhere. They're leading you nowhere. You understand? They're taking the people's, yo, they know the people are disgruntled and stuff, so they're pushing people who, okay, push him because he's not going to take nobody nowhere. It's going to run in a circle and sensationalize. Yeah, they're not going to speak hard truths. Yeah, they care about having a following and who might be offended and who might, oh, I'm not listening to him no more. I don't give a shit. If you don't want to listen to me no more and you think I'm toxic, yo, all the best to you. Yeah, but the truth right now is going to seem like that because the truth is worse than the lie. That's why they got to do so much to keep stuff like Giants and Tartaria and the real truth about black people and the real truth about white. They got to keep all that shit out. They got to keep you focused on this fucking once upon a time story. Yeah, that we all came out of a cave, yeah, rubbing stones together, wearing animal loincloths, yeah, from one Adam and one Eve, yeah, and all, oh, yeah, religion and race is coming to trap those who cannot realize the real truth and vibrate high enough to increase your vibration. They're going to use race. All this stuff we've said about white people, Muzungu and stuff, it doesn't stop me from working with any human. You understand that I deem, in my own experience, to say, you know what, that's a good human being. Yeah. Of course, we have to speak the truth, but it doesn't mean you can't meet people, white people who want better for themselves and who want better for the world and who want to do better and who want people to look at them in a better. Of course there are. Just like there's black people who don't give a shit about what me and you are talking here. They don't care about no black people being gods or Egypt or Israelites, or they don't care about none of that shit. All they care about is some money or some drugs or some pussy or some what's next on versus and shit. So you got good and bad in everything. But that's not going to stop me from speaking the truth. To say, oh, well, the white people that listen to me, they might be offended, you know. Yo, I don't give a shit if they're offended. If they're offended, then they shouldn't be listening to me. You need to go and listen to fucking Jimmy Swaggart or somebody else. End of. Do you understand? But at the same time, I'm not going to come out here and go on like some fucking black nationalist, like, oh, yo, no white people, and go on like some cunt, because there's no solution in that. We need a solution that includes all the good souls on the fucking planet. And if you don't like that, because a lot of black people have got a problem with that, yeah, if you don't like that, stop listening to my shit. Because I'm never going to be a fucking black nationalist racist like some of you. I'm not going to be that. I live in England. My experience is different from yours. Yeah? And fasting. Fasting is it's Ramadan right now. Ramadan Mubarak to all my true Muslim brothers and sisters out there, not no Mohammedans, the ones that can digest what I'm telling them without feeling offended or without feeling like I'm trying to attack them or something. Yo, Ramadan Mubarak to all of you. Yeah, and Ramadan is a good opportunity to use to increase your vibration, because the word fasting means it makes your particles vibrate faster, and the faster they vibrate, the less dense you are, meaning you start to become lighter and more spiritual. Yeah, so fasting is actually increasing the speed that your molecules are vibrating at, so you can pass through the states of solid, liquid and gas. Them three states is what trap us here. Once we can break that trap of solid, liquid and gas, we can escape this prison planet. Sounds like fucking fairy speech, yeah? But it's real. Yeah, so fasting, whether you're Muslim or not, because all nations have their own times and methods and practices of fasting. It's not just limited to Muslims. You see what I'm saying? And it's not just like, oh, I can only fast in Ramadan. You don't have to do it now, but it is a good way, as it is Ramadan right now, yeah, to increase the speed of your molecules, man, your vibration. And do it also by chopping out meat. I've did it by chopping out meat. I feel like I'm in a much better place since I chopped out meat. I've had like 3-4 times where somebody's gave me meat where it's like, yo, I've sent fish, rice, and a bit of chicken. I couldn't yam chicken. I looked at it. Yo, I don't want it. I don't want to eat this thing. And I feel like my vibration is increased. Yeah? I can feel the difference. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, experiment with fasting, man. Don't think you have to be a Muslim or you have to do it in Ramadan or whatever. But just know that when you fast, it speeds up your vibration, because we're only supposed to eat one time a day anyway. We ain't supposed to eat all these times a day where every minute we just yamming things. You understand? And yamming meat all the time and stuff to slow down your vibration till we become bogged down and dense. Yeah. Yeah, and just a few pointers, I'm done. But the South African footprint that you always see Michael Tellinger speaking about is literally like upright, like in a rock. Just a big foot, and you can see it's a real foot in rock. It's 1.5 meters long. That's 5 foot. That foot, the 5 foot. So that means based on that foot being 5 foot, because they can tell what size I am. If they found my foot in the future, they could use my foot to say, okay, well this guy was probably about 6'1", no bigger than 6'1", no smaller than 5'9". So that's what they did here. They're saying this footprint in that rock means that giant would be from 6 to 8 meters. Do you know how big that is? 6 to 8 meters, 1.5 meters, yeah, is 5 foot. So 8, yeah, times that by 8, that's like 40 foot to rest clear. That's a 40-foot giant if it was 8 meters. You get what I'm saying? And then in the mountains of Ecuador, there was some Father Carlos Baca who found some broken bones of a giant that literally would have been 7.6 meters. Do you understand? And I already told you that Table Mountain in South Africa, that was a tree. That's not a mountain. Go and have a look at it. Yeah. Certain mountains are trees, petrified trees, and certain mountains are buildings that were the buildings of giants. This is a level plane we're on. None of these shits, mountains and all of this shit is natural. Yeah. At first, when other people in my circle started telling me this years ago, I thought they were nuts, telling me mountains are buildings and mountains are trees. I tried to ignore them for time. Like, shout out to Empress Lotus, yeah? I was like, this girl's on some kind of drugs. Yeah? You know how you feel sometimes. Some of y'all probably feel that about some of the stuff I say. Do you get me? But I also felt like that in some of the super beings in my circle that introduced me to new ways of thinking. Do you understand? And she was like, yo, these is trees. And I looked, and a couple times I ignored it. Like, that ain't no tree. And then more and more when I started doing my research, I'm like, yo, this shit is a tree. Like, yo, go and do your own independent research. Don't take nothing that I'm saying on face value. Basically, that's the end of the live. But like I said to you guys, using these pale, because they're really pale, these Alibarans and these tall white, till they're pasty, call them blue bloods and stuff. These people came down here, invaded, and took the color out the world. That's what I wanted to say. Imagine the world without no color. And I had a little bit to show you here. Let me tell you. Imagine a world without no black people. Imagine a world without no black men and the smile and the charisma of black men. Imagine a world without no black women, yeah? Or no black beautiful children. Imagine a world without no black sports stars. There'll be no Kobe Bryant, no Michael Jordan, no Charles Barkley, no Vivi Richards, no Usain Bolt, no Venus Sisters, no Anthony Joshua, no Dion, none of that. Do you understand? Imagine the world with no black actors, no Washington, no Will Smith, no Wesley Snipes, none of that. What's captured on camera? Imagine the world with no black food. There's no soul food in the world. There's no, even though I don't eat flesh no more, there's no mutton and rice, there's no chicken and rice, there's no stew chicken, there's no jerk chicken, there's no carnival, no Bob Marley, no reggae, no Martin Luther King, no Jimi Hendrix, no Dorothy Dangerous, no Maya Angelou, no Billie Holiday, no Chuck Berry, no James Brown. You understand? There's no reading or writing, because we invented reading or writing with hieroglyph and uniform. So there will be no art or no writing, no hieroglyphs, no pyramids, yeah? No ancient architecture, wherever you're just like celebrating, no concept of spirituality or a godhead. There will be no rhythm. Mzungu dance, they got no rhythm. There'll be no Egyptians, and all the glory that we see about Egypt and that. You could say that was the most fabulous civilization on the face of this planet that we know about. Yeah? There will be no Tarseti or Kush, no Sumerians, man. The Sumerians were black. There will be no Olmecs, none of that. Them heads in Mexico. Mexico wouldn't even be such a talking point without the Olmecs. Okay, we got Mayans, Aztecs, okay, Paca. But them heads with the big nose, them helmets, yeah, them sons of the Centaurians or the Herculeans, yeah, they staring, yeah, getting dug up in that whole enigma. Imagine Mexico without the Olmecs, yeah? Imagine No Israelites. Israelites are black folk. Yeah, it's in their Bible. Imagine if no Israelites. There won't be no sense in having the Bible. Yeah, no pharaohs, you know, no pharaohs. They're the coolest kings this world ever seen. Kings that did shit on their own terms. Yeah, no rock and roll. We wouldn't have no Chuck Berry. Rock and roll came from Chuck Berry and Jimi Hendrix and them, man. We wouldn't have no R&B. Look at the golden age of R&B. SWV, En Vogue, Total, yo. That whole 90s, man. We wouldn't have had none of that. No reggae, no rap, man. No Tupac, no Malcolm X. The world would be an unworthy realm without black people. You matter. They invaded this world, raped out our ancestor mothers, and they took the color out of the world. They went around every continent. Alexander the Greek, yeah, to Constantine the bloody, who calls himself the Great, yeah. Soon as they done, yeah, Arabs, yeah. When the Arabs were done, the Portuguese. When the Portuguese was done, the Spanish. When the Spanish was done, Dutch. When the Dutch was done, the British. The British was done, the French. The French was done, yo, the Americans. All of them nations I just called spent time erasing the true history of the planet, and all of them nations is Muslim nations. None of them nations is black people. We don't go around erasing people's shit out of history. They did it because they are the hybrid, and they don't want you to understand that they're the hybrid. You are the owner of this planet here. You that look like the same color as the planet. The color of this planet is the color of the soil. The color of the soil is the color of the black and the black man and the black woman. Do you understand? It's our planet, brown people. Anybody else who doesn't look the same color as the tree bark or who doesn't look the same color as the soil does not naturally come from here. And that's the point we're getting to. And they use these tall ass giant aliens to come out here and take out the color out of the world and tell you that color don't matter. And tell you that the color of God don't matter. Well, if the color of God didn't matter, why the hell is God always white? Why the hell is God always a Mzungu looking like a hippie? How could God never look like me if color didn't matter? Do you understand? So I'd like to end on that, being that I wanted to just put that in the live, that this thing's based on race and fertility, yeah? And the Mzungu is the invader. That's why his ass look like rigor mortis, yeah? And if you're offended by that, go and work on your ass triggers, yeah? Because the truth is truth. Love you all. That's the end of the transmission. I hope that added to the first live about the true origin of white folk, the role of the Moors, and Tartaria. I feel justified now. I've spoken enough about Tartaria. If you want me to address anything, please put it on the thread, because I'm not going to waste time going through, because my mouth's dry and I want to go and have a drink and just do a doer for doing a successful live, because a lot went into the notes of that. As I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the thing. Thanks for tuning in. 7 people watching, 7 likes. So, yo, I can't ask for nothing more from you guys, yeah? But I'll be back at it soon with something else to add to this, yeah? Hotep, Namastu.